Frenchie's Art Gallery, located on historic Oak Street beside the Maple Leaf Bar. With over 3,000 square feet of space, it features a large gallery front room and Frenchie's personal art studio. Frenchie's Art Gallery is also connected to the Maple Leaf Courtyard, which is ideal for the New Orleans night scene. Frenchie's Art Gallery, 8314 Oak Street. Yeah, you're right.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I hope everybody had a fabulous Memorial Day weekend with their family and friends. I certainly did, and I hope you did too. But it's been a huge week in the world of sports across the country, and it's going to be even bigger this week. This weekend, hey, Japanese race car driver Takuma Sato, I think that's how you pronounce his name. That's right. He won the Indy 500 after the favorite Scott Dixon crashed early. And by the way, this week, 2 of the 4 major professional team sports in America will begin and have begun their best-of-7 final series. Hey, last night, the Stanley Cup Finals began, and it was the defending champion Pittsburgh Penguins. Hey, they knocked off the there-for-the-first-time Nashville Predators 5-3 in a thrilling Game 1. Hey, listen, the Preds came back to tie the game at 3 late in the third period. And for you non-hockey fans, that's the last period. But the Mighty Pens came back and scored a late goal and also added an open netter to take Game 1. So that series will continue tonight. Hey, by the way, the NBA championship begins this Thursday with the defending champion Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the slightly favored Golden State Warriors for the 3rd consecutive year. Hey, after a pretty nondescript playoffs thus far, also known AKA as boring, everyone is hoping for an epic finals between the best 2 teams in basketball. Hey, as for local dynasties, the LSU women's softball team, that's right, they're on a roll. They're in the College World Series, the Women's College World Series, for the 3rd consecutive year. Hey, they begin their play this Thursday in the World Series at 1:30. Hey, versus the UCLA Bruins. Don't forget to check out the Lady Tigers. Hey, also the LSU men's baseball team, I'm sure you know this, they are red hot. Remember they lost to Tulane back on April 25th in that midweek game? They've won 16 of their last 18 games, the Tigers have, including their last 11 in a row, and they have an SEC tournament title to show for it as well as sharing the regular season SEC title. Hey, but they did this past weekend in Hoover. It was remarkable. The Tigers' huge run have made themselves the 4th overall seeded team in the entire country in the NCAA tournament, and they're going to begin their regional. And if they get there, the super regional games, they're going to play them all at home at Alex Box Stadium in their quest for yet another trip to Omaha. Hey, by the way, head coach Paul Mainieri, he's going to join us right here on this show. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports. But for the 3rd time in 4 years, how about the Southeastern Lions? They're going to be joining the Tigers in the NCAA tournament, like I said, for 3 of the last 4 years. Congrats to Lions head coach Matt Reiser. He is, well, no pun intended, but he is a rising star in this business. He's been phenomenal with the Southeastern Lions. Joining Mainieri on this show, though, is going to be former LSU basketball star Antonio Hudson. That's right, he was a 4-year starter under Coach John Brady. It is tough to start anywhere for 4 years, and Antonio did it and did it well, averaging double figures through his career. Hey, also, Jay Romig. He was elected into the Saints Hall of Fame last week. He is a 41-year employee with the Saints. You know his famous dad, Jerry Romig, and of course his brother, Mark. Well, he was elected, I should say, with Jonathan Vilma and Carl Nix. Look at those big guys. Jay is special. We're going to have some great stories with him, talking about some Saints stuff in the past and current team as well. And remember last week when I had 7-year-old basketball phenom Jalea Manuel on the show? 7 years old. Well, this week we're adding 80 years to that with 86-year-old musician Bobby McIntyre. He's going to come here with his band, The Last Straws. I can't wait. We're going to talk to Bobby a little bit, and we're going to hear some great music from The Last Straws. Also, all that right here next on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I told you in the open we have a great show for you. Hey, listen, I have newly elected Saints Hall of Famer. That's right, just last week, Jay Romig was elected into the Hall. We're going to have him later on the show. I also have LSU four-year starter in basketball, Antonio Hudson. Yeah, he played in the early 2000s, right before the Final Four and right after that great Sweet 16 run, but he had a great career. And get this, remember last week I had 7-year-old Jalea, that little basketball phenom that was on Little Big Shots? Well, I've got 86-year-old musician, that's right, New Orleans traditional jazz musician, Bobby McIntyre. He's coming on with his band, The Last Straws. I cannot wait for them. But right now, the hottest news of the week. Hey, I told you the LSU women are in their third straight World Series, but the LSU men continue their tradition of excellence. Head coach Paul Mainieri joins me right now from Baton Rouge. Paul, how are you doing, sir? Welcome to the show.
Glad to be with you, Scott.
Absolutely.
Doing fine.
Hey, man, this run has been nothing short of spectacular to end the season. I know fans were sitting there, are we going to get a national seed? Are we going to get the super regional? But I think, obviously, all those worries were laid to rest. You won 11 straight games, 16 of the last 18. What do you attribute it to, Coach?
Well, if I could figure it out, we'd do it all the time, wouldn't we?
Absolutely.
I'll tell you this, Scott. I thought we had a good year all along. You know, a lot of people have been criticizing us because we lost a few midweek games. But when I analyze our schedule, the first 4 weekends of the season, which are non-conference, we swept 3 of those 4 series, and the only series we didn't, we played over in the Houston Astros ballpark in Minute Maid Park, and we lost 2 close games to 2 of the best teams in the country, TCU and Texas Tech. We went 21-9 in conference play, so really the only part of the schedule we struggled was with the midweek games. And once we had Doug Norman get hurt, and then we thought we were going to lose Hunter Newman with a bad back, I decided to take our midweek starter and put him in the bullpen, Zach Hess. So that weakened us with our pitching in the middle of the week, and I think that had as much to do with anything as why we lost 6 of our midweek games. But I was never down on our team. I really thought we were playing okay. Just we're a little inconsistent. One day the pitching would be great, one day the hitting would be great, but we just weren't doing it on a consistent basis, which is difficult to do over a 56-game schedule. But I just think these last few weeks, some of the leadership on our team just said, okay, you know, let's start to have a sense of urgency and let's play up to our capabilities. And I just think we've been doing that for the last month or so, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. I think we're getting better.
Any team that can win 21 games in the Southeastern Conference and then go 4-0 in the tournament, I would say had a fantastic year. And by the way, last I saw that, I don't remember guys like Alex Lang, Jared Poche, nor Eric Walker pitching in those midweek games, and these are the guys you count on. But I have to bring up the freshman first, because what Eric Walker did on that big stage against a team, Arkansas, who had 41 runs in their 4 SEC tournament games leading into the championship on Sunday, was nothing short of spectacular. This kid, Coach, has ice water in his veins. Tell me about his performance and you leading into it, having that much faith in your freshman.
I'll tell you, he was really something. And you're right, Arkansas went out the day before they played us and beat Florida 16-0, and they beat one of the best pitchers in our league, if not the best pitcher in our league, Brady Singer. Before that, this kid Spanberger had a 3-home-run game the day before. And I thought when we played in Fayetteville earlier in the year, even though we were able to win 2 of the 3 games, I, in my heart, felt that Arkansas was the best team we played all year. So for Eric Walker to go out there and shut that kind of team down, it was really unbelievable. And, you know, he had pitched a shutout against them in Fayetteville earlier in the year. Maybe some people attributed that to Arkansas being a little bit flat because we had rallied against them the night before, and it was a real heartbreaking loss for them. But when he went out there and did it again in this championship game, when you know Arkansas was at their peak of focus and wanting to win a championship and so forth, you know he really pitched well. And he's just been an amazing kid for us. You know, we've been struggling to find that third starter for the last 2 or 3 years, and Eric came in this year and right from the get-go showed that he could be that guy. He's got pinpoint control, he changes speeds, but above everything else, he's got amazing composure and poise for a young kid.
And it's so important because there's so much pressure. If you don't have that third starter you can really rely on for the first 2 to get wins, because when it gets down to tournament time, obviously you have to get wins, and obviously 2 out of 3 on weekends are important. But I have to say this. You said something poignant, Coach. I heard you in an interview just a few days ago, and it brought a tear to my eye for real. You said, hey, I looked over at Jared Poche, and I said, what an honor it has been for me to coach you for 4 years. Can you talk about this? Because I had you on this show back in February, and you talked about all those guys that stayed for their senior year, and Jared Poche being one of them.
Well, Jared is just the greatest kid that you could ever have as a part of your team. And I'm not talking about just the fact that he's won, 37 or 8 games, whatever it is in his career, and he's going to become the winningest pitcher in LSU baseball history. Just his personality, the type of person that he is, his unselfishness, his care about the team well before his own statistical, accomplishments. He's just an amazing young man, and I really felt that when I was just with him by myself in the dugout, and I just thought, I want this kid to know how I feel about him, and I told him, and I felt it. I mean it. It's been a great honor to be his coach, and I've enjoyed every second of having him in our program, and I'm going to miss him awfully bad when he's finished after this year.
Well, in closing, real quick, you have another pitcher. Since I've talked about those two, I feel like I can't leave Alex Lang out. This guy's third year here. Considered a power pitcher, but that curveball is so deadly. When you think of him and Aaron Nola and Kevin Gausman, that's a great trio. And I'm gonna throw Jared Poche, even though he's a different style pitcher. But how do you compare Lang to those other greats?
Well, I think you can talk about them in the same sentence, but they're all a little bit different. Kevin Gausman threw in the upper 90s. I mean, he was consistently at 96 to 98 miles an hour. He didn't really have great secondary pitches, but he did develop a really good changeup in his last year with us. He only was here 2 years, so it was his second year. He developed a pretty good changeup, which made him much more effective. Aaron Nola was more of a control guy where he could put the ball exactly where he wanted. He could throw 3 pitches for strikes. He's kind of like Eric Walker, except he throws harder than Eric. Eric throws about 88. Aaron could sit at about 92 or 93 miles an hour. When you look at Lang, he doesn't have quite the command that those other 2 guys have, but he's got that knockout pitch of that hard curveball.
Yep.
That if he's commanding his fastball and they have to respect a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, that they just don't have a chance against that curveball when he throws it the way he can. But he's had a great career, and he's had some peaks and valleys, but he's always been the same person and a great competitor.
Coach, I know you never tell me to get ahead, so I'm not going to talk about Rice. I'm not going to talk about Southeastern, great opponents. You start 2:30 on Friday afternoon against Texas Southern. We wish you the best of luck, Coach, and going on to the regionals. And we won't even talk about future, but thank you so much for being on the show.
All right, Scott, it's my pleasure.
There he is. That's head coach Paul Mainieri of the LSU Tigers. What a fantastic season. And no matter what happens in the playoffs, I'm going to still say the same thing. 2017 was a great year with a lot of great memories. So I want to thank him. Stay tuned. We have a big show coming up for you right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I want to thank Paul Mainieri for joining me on this very busy week as they start their NCAA regional for the umpteenth time the Tigers are going. And I want to also congratulate Matt Reiser and good luck to the Southeastern Lions as well. But speaking of Tigers, hey, I'm staying on that theme, but we're going to a different sport. Sometimes I like to bring on some legends from the past. Obviously we have a lot of current players and coaches as well. But hey, do you remember that era back in 2001 to 2005? My next guest was a 4-year starter on the LSU basketball team under Coach John Brady. And early on in his career, his teammates were guys like Taurus Bright, Ronald Dupree, Jaime Laredo. You remember those names. And then Collis Temple III. How about him? And then later in his career, because he was a 4-year starter for this team, he played with guys like Big Baby Glenn Davis. Obviously, Brandon Bass was there throughout his career. He was a great player. And, of course, some of the other great players throughout. Darryl Mitchell, I love them all. But his name, Antonio Hudson, 4-year starter, averaged double figures throughout his career. And here he is. First-time guest on Primetime Sports. How are you?
Man, I'm good, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, just to give you all some background, I'm sitting there at John Brady's. I think we were watching some golf about 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And all of a sudden the phone rings and his thing, and his phone was sitting by John's was by where I was sitting, and all of a sudden I saw Antonio Hudson's name pop up. And I said, Coach, ask him if he'll come on the show. And that's how it started.
Right. That day was kind of a busy day. I had talked to a couple of coaches, old coaches, people I played against, and I was just calling Coach Brady just to talk to him. And, it turned into this opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Coach loves you, by the way, just so you know.
Right.
I mean, heck, anybody that starts for somebody for 4 years, you better love him because he owes you a lot, or he owes you a lot. But, hey, by the way, talk about what's going on in your world now before we get into your past playing days.
Right now I'm coaching at Lincoln Preparatory High School back in Grambling, Louisiana, formerly known as Grambling High School.
Right.
I coach both boys and girls. This year we had a real successful season. The boys played in the top 28.
Nice.
And the girls made it to the quarterfinals and lost to the number 1 seed, Arcadia. I'm newly engaged, trying to become a real good family man.
Give me a little shout out for your future wife.
Right, Charlita Thomas, that's my wife. If you follow me on Facebook, you say you've seen her a time or two on Facebook.
Yes, I have.
But
Beautiful.
life is great. I can't complain. I can't complain at all.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
As far as your playing career, you started at Grambling, right? You're from Grambling, and now are you coaching at your alma mater?
Yes, sir. The name just changed.
Sure.
This year we changed to a charter school, so the name had to change. Started 4 years there and then left there, and Coach Brady and Coach Pierre, Coach Davis gave me an opportunity to come play at LSU, and just from there it went on.
Started 4 years in high school, 4 years in college. Is there ever a time you didn't start?
couple of stints in college when me and Coach didn't see eye to eye.
Well, you weren't the first not to see eye to eye with Coach Brady. By the way, great coach.
Right.
Y'all ended up going to a couple NCAA tournaments. I remember specifically your senior year.
Right.
I mean, that team was loaded.
Right.
Y'all had some great teams. I think you were 12-4 in the SEC.
Right.
I mean, you've been there 4 years. Kind of talk about that run you had right there.
It was memorable. I think we tied for the SEC West Championship with Alabama that year. I think the starters was Xavier Whipple, Darryl Mitchell, myself, Glenn, and Glenn and Brandon Bass.
Brandon Bass, right.
Right, and so we was real talented, great group of guys, stay in touch with some of them now. But I kind of felt like we lost too soon. And the year following that, it was the year they made it to the Final Four. I always tell people story, they had to get rid of me before they can, so they can make it to the Final Four.
I hate to even bring this up because not long before you, they had that great Sweet 16 team with Stroh, Swift, and they were favorites to actually maybe even get to the Final Four. They ended up losing to Wisconsin Sweet 16, and then they go to the Final Four after you. So what happened in between?
During that process, when I was being recruited, I think we played Kentucky with Stroh that year. They was number 1. That's kind of one of the things that solidified me wanting to come. The PMAC was rocking, and we go in there. And
so you were a high school kid watching the game?
Right.
Oh, wow.
I came down on an unofficial visit, and it was just crazy in the PMAC, and I fell in love with it then.
Well, the Pete Maravich Assembly Center has had many crazy rocking moments.
Right.
But when Kentucky comes to town, there's kind of nothing like it.
Right.
Talk about that, because, as great as Kentucky is, LSU is the team that's always played them tough. Talk about those games when you played the Wildcats.
It was crazy. On the way down, I was talking to a friend of mine, a friend of the family, and I was saying how well Kentucky travels. It's like no matter where they go, it's like a home game. And I talked to Coach Tubby Smith, who coached at Kentucky that same day, actually, that you're talking about. I talked to Coach Brady, and we was talking about the game my senior year in the SEC semifinals, and we was up on Kentucky the first half. I was playing well. Brandon was playing well. And the next thing you know, Coach Tubby pulled all the starters and said, "You won't play." And next thing, after halftime, they come out on fire.
They were on fire. Yeah. I remember it now well.
Right. We went into overtime and lost in overtime. So
I mean, how heartbreaking is that?
It was tough. It was tough.
Seriously.
It was tough. Out of the 4 years, I don't think I beat them once. We always played them close.
You always played them super close.
We never beat them.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I know LSU has had some. Dale Brown actually had a winning record over a stretch there for about 12 years in the 80s. But when you look back on your career, I mean, you're a 4-year starter. I mean, listen, I know Brady yanked you a couple times, but literally when you look at your stats, you started for 4 years. What do you remember most fondly about your time at LSU?
One of the most memorable games was we beat Arizona when they were number 1.
Yes.
I think that was December of 2002, my sophomore year. I played a real good game, and just the love and the affection and stuff from the fans after the game. And that's just what my experience at LSU was about, the family atmosphere, and I enjoyed every moment of it. You go through tough times in anything, in any part of life, you're going to go through some ups and downs. and that was the case. But, you know, I made some good friendships, have some lifelong memories, and I enjoy coming back.
Do you remember which Arizona's had so many great players over the years? Do you remember who were their stars at that time?
Andrea Iguodala.
Oh, yes.
Shannon Fry.
Yes.
Luke Walton didn't play that game.
But he was on. Was he a freshman back then? Or?
No, he was like a junior.
Okay.
He was hurt. He hurt his ankle.
Yeah, right.
Jason Gardner.
And by the way, he was probably as highly recruited as any of them from Indianapolis. I remember him.
Right, Jason Gardner. Salim Stoudemire and Hassan Adams. They were loaded.
They were loaded. All those guys were top 10 recruits.
Four pros on that team.
At least.
Yeah.
I mean, at least 6 that played some in the NBA, and 4 that a couple of them are still playing.
Right.
I mean, come on. Iguodala and Channing Fry, right.
And Iguodala.
But let's talk a couple of your teammates that I know you were close to. Brandon Bass comes to mind first. I know you played with Baby for a year, but this guy, 12 years now in running in the league, played with a lot of teams, always been reliable. What are your thoughts on him, and did you have any idea his career would be this long?
I knew Brandon would be successful. I remember after my senior year when he was debating on going to the draft or whatnot, and I was doing workouts and was flirting with the deal of playing overseas. You know, Brandon said in the locker room, he said, I won't play overseas. I'm going to play in the NBA.
Right.
And he just was so confident in himself, and not only was he confident, he worked. You know, you would think in college, you know, kids want to have fun, go out and party and just be out on the scene, but that never was
I have
Brandon.
no idea what you're talking about.
Right. That was never Brandon. He was always a gym rat, just working to constantly get better. You know, he took care of his body, things of that nature.
So the opposite of Big Baby.
No, the opposite of me.
No, but as far as Brandon, though, he got drafted right here in New Orleans with the Hornets. Obviously, they were just gotten down here a couple years before that.
Right.
But Orlando, Boston, Dallas. Remember that kind of resurrected his career a bit, and now he's with LA with the Lakers that you see there.
Right.
How long do you think he's going to play? I mean, he's 12 years and running now.
If people continue to give him the opportunity, he will last. Because, like I say, it's not like he doesn't work, and he stays in great shape, and, you know, he take care of his body. So, you know, I know the NBA, the schedule, the rigor of the schedule can have a, you know, impact, but I think Brandon could play, you know, 3 or 4 more years.
I have a question, because you did mention that the team after you went to the Final Four, did you have an inkling, because you had played with Daryl Mitchell a couple of years, maybe even 3 at that point, and he was the elder statesman on that Final Four team, but Big Baby had been a freshman. Obviously Bass was gone, but you had Tyrus who had been redshirting, correct? And then Garrett, your teammate's brother Garrett Temple, Collis's younger brother. Did you think that this team would have what it takes to get to the Final Four? Because they had to beat Duke with J.J. Redick and all them, and, of course, LaMarcus Aldridge, Texas Longhorn team.
I knew they had a chance to be really good, and I'm not saying it just because I played for LSU. Just watching those cats, the way they worked, the determination that they had to just be great, I knew they had a chance to be really good. Final Four, you know, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and once-in-a-lifetime deal, but they deserved it. Daryl was the leader. He was the lead, one of the leaders when I played, and, you know, he just took it into his own hands to just say, hey, we're going to play as hard as we can play every night and, you know, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, what was it like playing with Baby?
Oh, it was nice, man. To have somebody, you know, it's unbelievable how athletic he was.
Yes,
you know, I
agree.
When he used to come over to my apartment when he was still in U-High, and I just was like, I can't believe this kid plays basketball. But then when you see him, you know, he's so graceful. You know, he's moving around like a guard, but he's 6'7", however much he weighed at the time. You know, so you know,
3+.
So just watching him was just amazing. It's once in a lifetime type athlete.
I remember when I had become an agent, and then I was recruiting him, and a lot of the now for like Fred Hoiberg's an example, and guys like that. The guy who ended up being Cleveland Cavaliers GM, Chris Grant, they were all saying, hey, man, this kid will play 14, 15 years if he put a helmet on, put him in the I'm like, dude, this guy wants to be an NBA player, and he got a title his first year and played for a while. But when you talk about LSU, here's the one thing I want to ask as a former player. You've seen some good things happen since you, as an alumnus, you've seen some good things, but you've also seen a couple lean years. What's it like for an alum like you, seeing a season like last year? I mean, because I know you're proud of where you played and you're proud of your team. Heck, I didn't play at all, and I'm proud. So, I mean, what's it like for you?
You know, it was frustrating at times, but, you know, I've been on both sides of it. You know, even as a player, my freshman year was a down year. I think we were like 16-16 or something like that. You know, but, you know, it's frustrating, but, you know, it's basketball, football, all sports go through transition years, and, you know, you got to take the good with the bad, and I just think now that we're headed in the right direction.
What'd you think about that Ben Simmons experiment for a year? Because everybody was so hyped about it, and then, you know, it wasn't like a terrible year.
Right.
It just wasn't what everyone expected. As an alum, what'd you think of that?
It's again, it's tough because I've seen both sides of it. You know, we talk about Ben and things that he did. He was still a kid, though.
Sure.
You know, he was just 17, 18 years old.
Right.
With a lot of expectations, and for a kid to be put in that situation is tough.
It's tough.
You know, now as the alumnus, as the former basketball player, you know, it was disappointing just watching, you know, because that team was real talented. It was real talented, and I felt like, you know, we could have done some special things. So.
And real quick, Will Wade, the new coach,
Right.
What are your thoughts on this, and where do you think, because I had him on the show 2
Right.
weeks ago, what are your thoughts on where this is going?
Great guy. What I like about him is that he's reaching out to former players.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I talk to him regularly, once, twice a week, you know, just to see how he's doing. And he responds back timely manner, and, you know, I respect him for that. And I just think that, you know, the basketball program is headed in the right direction.
Well, here's a direction I want you to head. It's called Shays de la Shays.
Okay.
Bring your fiance down.
All right.
Unless you want to bring is that your uncle here with you?
That's my godfather.
Your godfather,
yeah.
either one.
Right.
I think this is a place, this is kind of romantic kind of place. I think it.
Oh, no, we don't need to go to Me and him don't need to go together.
You and her need to. Bring her back down from Grambling. You're in Shreveport, though, right?
Grambling.
No, you're in Grambling. You're in Grambling. All right, so here, I got 2 balls. I know you didn't play football, but this says LSU, and you were a 4-year starter. We're going to sign basketball, too, but let's get you on there somewhere by your coach, John Brady. I see him right up there in the upper right. But thank you once again. Anywhere you can squeeze in, it doesn't matter. But this is Antonio Hudson. I love bringing guys back to let you see what they're doing now. I mean, listen, like I said, 4-year starter, double figures, just a solid player for the LSU Tigers back in the day. Hey, we've already had 2 Tigers. Now we're switching gears. Later in the show, I have Hall of Famer, that's right, elected Hall of Famer, soon to be inducted, Jay Romig, and no one deserves it more. He got in last week along with Jonathan Vilba, the Super Bowl hero linebacker for the Saints, as well as a guy that played offensive line on that same team named Carl Nix. But Jay Romig is going to come on later in the show. But next, I've got Bobby McIntyre. That's right, he's 86 years old. He's with a band called The Last Straws. We're going to hear him later, but we're going to talk to Bobby next, right here on Primetime Sports.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my, oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lane's the home of rock and roll.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans. Hey, I want to thank Paul Mainieri and Antonio Hudson, but hey, don't forget, coming up later in the show, Jay Romig, a newly elected member of the Saints Hall of Fame. But right now, I can't wait for this one. Last week I had 7-year-old Jalea Manuel. Well, I'm adding 80-plus years, or maybe a little less than 80 years, because my next guest, he's 86 years old. That's right. His name is Bobby McIntyre, and he's the head of this band called The Last Straws. But boy, he's one of the funniest, most humorous, wittiest guys I've ever met. Whoa! Welcome to the show.
Wait, I'm going to put you in my press kit.
You are officially the oldest guy that's ever been on my show. How are you doing, Bobby?
Well, I'm doing fine for an old dude. I do turn 86, as a matter of fact, this month.
This is your month, June?
Yeah,
You'll
6
be
months
86.
before Christmas, I'll be 86.
Are you the 25th?
25th.
You're the 25th of June.
Yeah.
I know somebody special that's June 27th, so you're right in there. So, hey, by the way, what are you going to do for your 86th birthday?
Sleep. I do that. Boy, do I do that very well. No, I really do. Yeah, I'm drinking and smoking about 30 years ago. And
So what do you do for fun now? You just sing?
sleep.
You sleep?
No, I do music. We are doing a documentary with WLAE, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
having
nice,
shot
nice.
the production
Nice.
about the birth of jazz. And I'm not sure what we're doing on the sports show, but
No, but how
anyway.
I want to hear about that. How did you get into jazz? When did you find your love for it? Was it an early age or later in life?
No, it was at an early age. I guess about 1950, there was a craze on for ukuleles, and I borrowed a friend of mine's ukulele, and we took a little short trip, and I was in the back seat, and I learned how to play the ukulele. And it just, from there, a stringed instrument, and I went to a banjo ultimately, and I just fell in love with, the local hero, Papa Celestin at the time, who played with Louis Armstrong years and years ago. And the music, it's one of it was dirty in its origins, but it's just so much fun in a high society. Da, 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 da. Man, that's good stuff.
Hey, I know we're going to hear the last straws in a second, but you have something with Sportsman Park, and I know we don't have a ton of time to talk about it, but tell me about your passion for this.
About what, Sportsman's Park,
Yes,
or
sir.
about music?
Well, either one. How about that? Go with
Well,
it.
no, I have no passion for Sportsman's Park. Sportsman's Park, what is the date? 1886, the same year that Newcomb College was founded. A baseball stadium, football stadium was built out at the site. What it was Arkin, most people would recognize it, but what's now the I-10 and
Right.
City Park Avenue.
Right there, yeah.
And the connection with music is, when you build a ballpark, you need a place, a concession stand. So they need somebody to sell the beer. And so they built something called the Halfway House. And it was halfway between the river, downtown, and the lakefront.
I just learned that. That's pretty cool.
It is cool. Stopping off point.
The stopping off halfway point.
Right, exactly. In subsequent years, they served ice cream. But in the early years, you'd go to the ballpark, you could go to the Halfway House and get a beer. At about the turn of the century, here's the connection between music and sports. About the turn of the century, they're putting bands in there. And George McCullum and a whole raft of guys. And then in the 20s, you got something called the Halfway House Orchestra, most popularly recorded orchestra of the 20s, all New Orleans boys.
Well, speaking of New Orleans boys and girls, we have a band. You're wearing the hat, the last straws. That was a prerequisite. I told you, son,
Yeah,
I got to have the straw hat on him. I'm sure he told you. But you're going to be playing coming up right after this commercial break. We're going to have you with your band, and I'm looking forward to this. How long have you guys been around together?
60 years,
Are you kidding me?
1957. Well, they're down to the last of the Mohicans. But
You're one of the last ones? You got another 30 yet.
No,
You're going to
I
be 116
have
minimum.
one other guy plays with me. We don't have him this morning. Bob Ice, co-founder of the Last Straws, but we're down to 2 people, and we've replaced everybody else.
Get yourself a nice meal at Shays de la Shays right here. I'm going to give this to you. This is you're
Wow.
a Tulane. He's a Tulane fan. This is on Maple between
Street. I know
Carrollton
exactly
and Broadway.
where it is.
You know where it is. You know where it is. But we're going to have the last straws coming up next. I can't wait. They're coming right here next on Primetime Sports. The last straws. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and as promised, the band that was formed in 1957, 60 years ago. You just heard Bobby McIntyre on the segment. Well, here are the last straws right here with Sweet Georgia Brown. Wow, what a jam-packed show, but we aren't through yet. How about those last straws? Love them. It's been such a fun show, but last but certainly not least, I've got one of the newest members of the Hall of Fame, not inducted yet, but elected. Well, they kind of all found out a couple months ago, but it got announced to the public just last week. Of course, Jonathan Vilma, the Super Bowl hero linebacker, Carl Nicks, and the man sitting to my left, it's going to be your right when you see him. Well, his name is Jay Romig, and he is one of the greatest guys I've ever met. Certainly in the Saints organization, he is the easiest to talk to. What is up, my friend? And congratulations,
thank you very much.
Man.
Thank you. Good to be here.
For people that recognize the name and they're like, okay, I've been hearing this name this past week. Well, his father, Jerry Romig, if you went to Saints games, first down New Orleans, first and 10. Well, that was his dad doing the PA for, I don't know, 40-plus years. 45-plus years, I don't know, and his brother has taken over in recent years. Mark, there's Jerry right there. But, man, you guys are royalty of Saints family. What's it like growing up with this organization? I see your Saints tie. I'm loving it.
It's been great. It's super. You know, having Dad do the PA for all these years. My sister Mary Beth was his spotter for some years now. She spots for Mark. It's like a family affair up in the booth. I'm actually in the booth also doing the scoreboard for the stadium.
Oh, you're doing that as well.
So I'm in there too. So it's it's good because I try to keep Dad under control when he was doing it because he sometimes get too excited.
For those of you that are not in the business, the spotter is one of the most important people out there. I'm going to tell you, that's the one that holds the board up for the guys that call the game on TV, and some radio guys use them, but the PA guys use them as well because they have to know exactly what's happening so they can say it. So there's a big board, and they usually point to the number and point to the name so the guy can say it. But the transition has been flawless between father and son. You have to be proud that your brother's done so well.
Mark's done a great job. He sounds like Dad. He's got his own little deals that he does, but it's been great.
And your brother also is a big wig in town with the tourism board. Kind of explain what he does with that.
He's director of the New Orleans Tourist Commission for like vacation travel, and he's the executive director. He loves it. He's been doing that for a number of years now, helping with the festivals and the Jazz Fest and Essence and just every day that people come into the city. Kind of spearheading that for the city and and his big event right now is the Tricentennial coming up.
Right, that's
huge.
Getting
ready for that is huge, yeah.
Is this a lifetime gig? Because he is the perfect ambassador for our city. I mean, no, he represents us so well, and he's so well loved. I mean, I know he does some important things like he helps Thornton try to get Super Bowls to New Orleans.
He does that,
and does presentations like that as well. But I mean, is this a gig? Because he should be in for life, in my opinion.
Well, he does a great job. I know he's got a lot of things on his plate. A lot of little in-depth things he's working on. So I wouldn't say it's lifetime, but I know he loves every minute of it.
All right, let's talk about you. This is all about you. 41 years now. You're in your 41st year. Did you have any inkling that the Saints would honor you this way? Because you're going in with two legends. Some say Carl Nicks is, obviously Jari Evans played longer, but when you're talking about the best guards in Saints history, it's Jari and, of course, Carl. You're going in with Carl. And then Jonathan Vilma, I think many would say, maybe because they love the Super Bowl, could be the best linebacker in the history of the Saints. You're going in with two big studs.
It's exciting. It's I'm receiving the Joe Gimelli Award. And,
you didn't play?
I didn't play. But the guys are being inducted as players into the Hall of Fame. And the way the Saints Hall of Fame works, we're getting into the area where guys from those Super Bowl teams, players, are eligible to be inducted, and that's these are the first two really, Carl and Jonathan from the Super Bowl.
From the Super Bowl year, right?
Yeah. That's pretty neat. Yeah, when my dad got the same award back in 2009, and he went in with Morton Anderson.
All right,
so it's kind of neat. We won the Super Bowl that year, so maybe we're hoping there's a premonition of what may happen this year. Maybe we can get to the Super Bowl again this year.
So real quick, because I want to say something about Morton too, the Joe Gimelli Award, which is obviously a great clothier back in the day here. I saw Fleur de Lis Award on the screen. What is that?
It's a Joe Gimelli Fleur de Lis Award.
Okay, they call it the Fleur de Lis Award.
It's for someone who's given unselfishly to the organization, and it's recognized. It could be an employee. We've had our equipment manager Dan Simmons and Silky Powell won it one year, They were selected one year. We've had different. Doug Thornton was our most recent winner. So it's people who have given to the organization and to the Saints service and that's
that describes you perfectly. Unselfish. You've done it. Hey, you sold programs in 1967. A lot of people say they were there in '67. You were really there in '67.
I was there, and I didn't sell programs that year, but we were there. We were at the game. We went to a bunch of games that year. Dad had season tickets. He started doing the announcing in '69.
Right.
And I would help him spot then sometimes. But I think the '69-'70 year is when I first started selling programs at Tulane games and at Saint games.
So '69-'70, that era was the first time you started. Because I sold them at that Super Bowl in '74, like I said.
Yeah.
I still have that credential. Steelers, Vikings, Super Bowl IX. Hey, I was 9 at the time. I was my older brothers. Hey, Peter Finney's another guy your dad was fond of.
Yeah.
I know they used to go
Peter's
to
won this award, too. He's won the Fleur de Lis. Yeah.
Peter Finney, and obviously he just passed away recently, as did your father. They're these two legends over at Morning Call. Talk about their relationship. They loved each other, didn't they?
They did. They grew up in, Dad's first jobs was in the newspaper business, working for the State's Item. And that's where he first met Peter. And they've been lifelong friends. And just through the media, television, and newspaper business, they've stayed friends. The families have been friends.
You're about a decade ahead of me. So I'm curious about, because when I'm a kid, there's like this Pistol Pete Maravich, and then there's Archie Manning. Was Archie Manning as big to you as a guy that, heck, you're in your teens and then above, as he was to a kid like me that was growing up?
Scott, he was. That's probably one of my favorite players, that working with the Saints. I was there when he first started, and, his kids would come around like Peyton and Eli and Cooper. They were
right when they were kids.
They were kids. They were
and
kids.
They're considered family still, right?
It's like Drew bringing his kids around. You see these kids grow up. But Archie was great. He was a great guy to work with. And back in those days, my first years, that was before free agency.
Right.
So you had players
They were staying, yeah. 6, 8, 9 years, and you sort of became friends with them. The organizations weren't as big, and you got to know them, and it was different, and now free agency's changed that a little bit, where guys, 3, 4 years are in and out sometimes, but sure.
And there's still some good guys and good players, and you make friends.
It's hard to keep that, like Drew Brees has been here for a dozen years. It's hard to keep that.
The oddity, yes.
Yes, it is definitely the exception rather than the rule. Yeah. Tell me some of your other favorites. I know you don't want to play favorites, but there's got to be a couple more that stand out.
Over the years, back thinking back to the early days, like Joe Fettersfield and Jim Merlo, but they've got like Deuce McAllister.
Deuce
was
McAllister.
Always great to work with.
He's such a gentleman and always has been, right?
Yes, he really is, and he doesn't forget. He never forgets your name. Never forgets the people he worked with, the trainers, the equipment guys, and the people in the organization.
And that means a lot, doesn't it? I mean, for guys like that,
yeah.
because I feel that's the same way about you. Ever since I've met you years ago when I was helping Brando do games, you've always, Scott, what's up? And I'm like, how does this guy remember me? But that is a great trait to have.
I think that's how Deuce was. Marcus Colston.
The Quiet Storm.
Yeah. He's another one. He was always great, to be around, and wouldn't say much, but he talked to you. That's some good stuff on Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a good guy, and I still can't believe that this man never made it to a Pro Bowl.
Isn't that amazing?
He's the greatest receiver. Yeah. I mean, arguably in Saints history, they've had Joe Horn and Eric Martin, and obviously they got Michael Thomas now. But I mean, Marcus Colston's always going to go down very fondly in Saints lore.
I think with our offense now, everybody just shines, especially all the receivers. But they share the wealth. Drew throwing the ball around, so. But you think he would have made a Pro Bowl by now. Yeah.
From Tom Fears to Sean Payton, you've seen all 14 head coaches for the Saints.
Yeah. Fears.
You didn't know Fears much, but I'm talking about you kind of came
Hank
around.
Hank Stram was there when I first started.
Hank Stram was there when you first started. I know we had J.D. Roberts before that. I'm not saying you know them all, but who are some of your favorite head coaches? And I know you better say Sean Payton since you kind of work with him and for him right now.
That, yeah.
So he's certainly one of them. But who else sticks out as guys you love?
I started with Hank Stram.
Yeah.
And then he was there a year. And Dick Nolan was the first. And he
got us that 8-8 year in '79,
he did,
right?
And he was great. And his son is now our defensive back. Yeah, working
Mike
with
Nolan,
Mike
right?
Nolan. Yeah, Mike is great. Mike,
and there he is with John Meekum.
John
That's Dick
Meekum,
Nolan.
yeah,
right.
That was he was Hank's linebacker coach, and when Hank was let go, he was hired as a good coach. Great guy, great family guy. You know, his kids. One of his kids went to Rummel. You know, Mike was at LSU, I think, when his dad starting LSU when his dad started here. But know these kids. Dick was always one of my favorites. We've had some great, good coaches and great guys.
Well, Jim
to work
Mora
with.
was the first one that really won on a consistent basis. I know Nolan they had the precipice, they were 8-8, but this is the guy that got that great 12-3 year, and they went to the playoffs 4 different times
He was
under him.
here 10 years, 11 years. Jim was great. And he still comes around, and it's funny that it's interesting when he comes around the office or he's at a mini camp or and people see him, but people love him. You know, they always they go out of the way to tell him hi when he comes back to the city. Yeah.
Great guy.
He was good. He was a good guy, yeah.
And he still does some stuff on TV. He always makes something memorable.
Yeah,
you know?
He was good. But we had Bum Phillips, of course, and Mike Ditka. There's Bum, yeah.
Right on cue.
Yeah.
Right on cue. Bum Phillips,
Bum
baby.
was interesting. You know, when we hired Bum, I was doing computer work. We had a computer department. And
back in '82.
Well, we just thought, you know.
Computers just came out.
Well, no, Dick Nolan. We had Nolan, and Coach Nolan came from he was part of the Dallas.
They were all organized with that, right?
And Paul Wiggin worked with him, and so they came in, and we started to do some computer work, and it was just simple. What is now Excel, you know, with simple.
Right.
But it was on these big machines. Yeah, it was on these big machines
right.
you know, so we had it going. We coached. We started doing some scouting with it, and we were doing game reports. And Bum comes in, and he's touring the old facility out on Saints Drive, and he walks into the room where we had this computer, and this computer's gigantic, like how they used to be back there. And he walks in, he goes, I'm sitting there, and he goes, "What's that?" And I said, "That's our computer system."
What did Bum say?
And looked at it, and he goes, "I'll give you a week to get it out of here." And sure enough, we moved it from the David Drive facility to the Superdome. And we didn't do a thing football-wise, computer, for until the 4.5 years, because he resigned midway through on that 5th season, and Wade took over. And as soon as Wade took over, Wade was a little more.
Yeah, he's a little advanced.
We
He's a little
started
more
to do some
forward-thinking.
things, tried to catch up, but we didn't do a thing scouting.
So Bum, made you trade in that computer for a steam cleaner, so you get all the spit stains out, and we chew tobacco out of the Superdome carpet, correct?
Yeah.
No. Hey, real quick, before I let you go, I have to ask you about the transition from the oil tycoon, John Meekum, as the owner for 20 years, to the car business dealership tycoon, I should say, from John Meekum, as you see there, to the present-day owner, Tom Benson, who's now been the owner for 30-plus years. There's Benson with old, fast Eddie Edwards.
That was the day the announcement was made.
Right
in
there.
front of the dealership, yeah.
So what's it like, the two different regimes, I should say?
Well, when Mr. Meekum owned the team, you know, in the early days of our existence in the NFL, it wasn't run like a business. I mean, a few of the teams were, maybe the Steelers and the Giants, but most of these teams weren't run like the businesses that they are today. And that's probably why Mr. Meekum had
There's Meekum in the background, Roselle and Dave Dixon.
That's when that's the announcement of the team, yeah.
Some good memories, though, huh?
Great memories. And Mr. Benson, business.
Yeah.
And he wants to,
He's all business.
All business. Wants to win games, wants to win Super Bowls. But
he likes the boogie, too, that Benson
boogie. He likes the boogie. We had a lot of boogie, yeah. Had some great pictures of
By the way, I hope you're in with Gail, because, I hope Benson lasts another 20 years.
We do,
but,
too. The Bensons are great people. They've been...
Look at that wedding right there.
That wedding, yeah. Yeah.
I imagine you were there.
I was there.
Of course.
I was there.
You're there for everything. For every event. This is the guy, man. I am honored to know you. I'm pleasure to be your
Scott,
friend.
very much.
We can do the fist. Look at the ring. Put that ring up. Look at that. That is what we call a Super Bowl ring right there. Congrats on that. Hey, I've got a nice gift certificate for you. Enjoy this one at Shays de la Shays.
Thank you very much.
Proudly sign this Saints ball. We're going to give you your own little spot right up in here. So that man right there is a true gem and a good guy to know. Is just a perfect guy to be a friend. He's a good guy. His name is Jay Romig. You know his father who passed away recently, Jerry, and, of course, his brother Mark. who took over. But I want to thank him. I want to thank everybody else. It's been a great show. Paul Mainieri on the weekend. He is getting ready for the regionals for the umpteenth time. I want to thank him, of course. Hey, who could forget Bobby McIntyre and the Last Straws? They were fantastic. And, of course, Antonio Hudson, the former 4-year star for the LSU Tiger basketball team. I want to thank them all. Stay tuned next week is the month of June. Boy, I am bringing it fast and I'm bringing it furious. It's going to be a great month right here on Primetime Sports. I want to thank everybody, Will Hill and the rest of the WLAE and, of course, CST teams. Hey, Josh Smoove, and we got Kenny Juno, the Redhead Tsunami, and everybody in charge. I want to thank you all for taking care of this show and all of us at both stations. We'll see you next week.